if you apply your gift, your God-given gift that he gave you, you have millions already at your disposal.
34,688 square feet of French provincial stone, sitting on 17 acres above the Chattahoochee River. A working ranch of 1,581 acres, bought directly from the family that built Chick-fil-A. The license to produce one of the most successful game show formats on the planet in countries on the other side of the world. A morning radio show that reaches roughly 7 million people before most of America has finished its first cup of coffee. And a wardrobe of tailored suits that insiders estimated somewhere between 500 and 1,000 pieces. One man owns all of it. And the strange part is that almost no one has told the story of how he got it correctly. They tell you about the jokes, the catchphrases, the viral hosting moments. They almost never tell you about the deeds. This is a channel about black wealth, power, and legacy, told the way it actually happens across America and around the world. Empires, ownership, the decisions made after the spotlight, not during it. And this is not the Steve Harvey story you already know. This is the one underneath it. The version where a man who slept in his car turned a comedian's paycheck into a portfolio of land, equity, and intellectual property that will outlive every punchline he ever delivered. If that is the kind of story you came here for, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the people who own the most are almost always the people who say the least about it. Let's get into it. The Cleveland Blueprint. Broderick Stephen Harvey was born on January 17, 1957, in Welch, West Virginia. His father was a coal miner. He was the youngest of 5 children, and before long the family moved to Cleveland, Ohio, where he grew up and graduated from Glenville High School in 1974. He tried the conventional paths. He attended Kent State University and West Virginia University, and he dropped out of both. Therefore, he did what people without a degree and without a plan tend to do. He took whatever work he could find. He sold insurance. He delivered mail. He cleaned carpets. He worked as an auto mechanic. He even boxed. None of it stuck. None of it paid. So, in the mid-1980s, he made a decision that, on paper, looked irresponsible. He quit the jobs to chase stand-up comedy with no safety net underneath him, and the bill for that decision came due fast. By his own account, he spent roughly 3 years effectively homeless, living out of a 1976 Ford Tempo, washing up in gas station bathrooms and the showers at public swimming pools, surviving on something like $50 a night when the gigs came at all. Remember that car, the Ford Tempo, because everything that follows is the story of a man who decided he would never be that exposed again, and who figured out that the way you protect yourself is not with fame. It is with ownership. Fame is a spotlight, and spotlights move. Ownership is a deed, and a deed stays. The foundation years. The break finally came in 1990, when Harvey won a comedy competition that put him on the path to Showtime at the Apollo. He would host that show from 1993 to the year 2000, the longest run anyone had at the time. That national exposure did exactly what exposure is supposed to do. It opened doors. It led to the Steve Harvey Show on the WB network, which ran from 1996 to 2002 and gave him his first taste of real, stabilizing money. Then came 1997 and the Kings of Comedy Tour, where he stood alongside Cedric the Entertainer, Bernie Mac, and D.L. Hughley on what became one of the most successful stand-up tours in history. But the engine that turned a working comedian into a wealthy one was not the stage. It was the microphone and the buzzer. The Steve Harvey Morning Show went national through Premiere Networks in 2005, and today it reaches roughly 7 million listeners every week across more than 100 stations, consistently ranked the #1 syndicated hip-hop and R&B morning show in the country. By reasonable analyst math, that single show reportedly pays him somewhere in the range of $20 million a year. Then, in 2010, he took over as host of Family Feud, and he never let go. He is now the longest-running host in the show's history, with reported hosting income around $10 million a year, plus more from Celebrity Family Feud. Add the book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, which spent 64 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list and inspired a film that earned roughly $113 million at the box office. And you have a man earning, by most credible estimates, somewhere between $40 and $45 million a year. That is a fortune by any normal measure. But here is the thing most people get wrong. All of that was still income. It was the foundation. It was never the structure. And around 2017, Harvey started building the structure. The pivot to ownership. This is the part of the story that matters most, so slow down here. In 2017, Harvey created Steve Harvey Global, a holding company designed to put every venture under one roof and one vision. Underneath it sat a production company called East 112, an investment arm called Harvey Ventures, a licensing division called Steve Harvey Products, and eventually a professional development platform called Vault Empowers. According to reporting on his operation, that umbrella now sits over something like 40 subsidiary businesses worldwide, run day-to-day by executives like Thabiti Stevens and Brandon Williams, while Harvey sets the direction. And then he did something that almost no television host ever does. Most hosts rent their fame to a network. The network owns the show. The host owns a paycheck. Harvey looked at that arrangement and decided he wanted to be on the other side of it. Through East 112, he secured the format license to produce Family Feud internationally, and in 2020 he launched Family Feud Africa. It became the #1 game show in both South Africa and Ghana almost immediately. Sit with what that means. He went from being paid to show up on one country's version of a show to earning from the format itself, succeeding in other countries, whether or not he is in the room. That is the difference between a worker and an owner. A worker is paid for their time. An owner is paid for their assets. Therefore, the day he stopped trading only his time, his ceiling disappeared. That single shift from talent to owner is the lens for everything he has bought since, including the land. The headline asset. In June of 2022, Steve Harvey and his wife Marjorie finalized one of the most quietly significant purchases of his entire career. They bought the Rock Ranch in Upson County, Georgia, roughly 1 hour south of Atlanta, 1,581 acres, often rounded in the headlines to 1,600. And the seller is the detail that makes this story unforgettable. The Rock Ranch was established in 1989 by S. Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A. For more than 3 decades, it operated as an agritourism destination that drew over 100,000 visitors a year, with a farmer's market, a pumpkin patch, and holiday events. When the Cathy family decided to part with it, they did not sell it to a developer. They sold it to Steve and Marjorie Harvey, who had already been running their mentoring camps on the property. Harvey renamed it the Steve and Marjorie Harvey Legacy Ranch. Think about the symbolism, and then think about the strategy underneath the symbolism. A coal miner's son from Welch, West Virginia, a man who once lived in a Ford Tempo, now owns the cattle ranch built by the founder of one of the largest privately held restaurant companies in America. He did not just buy land. He bought a fully built institution with infrastructure, a brand, agricultural operations, and a built-in mission. This is not a trophy. A trophy sits in a case. This is an engine. It feeds people, it teaches agriculture and entrepreneurship, and it runs his youth mentoring program at a scale almost no private individual could match. That is what ownership looks like when it is done deliberately. The secondary holdings. The ranch is the centerpiece, but it is not the only deed in the file. His primary residence is a mansion in the Buckhead neighborhood of Atlanta, and its history reads like a relay race of black entertainment power. The estate was built by filmmaker Tyler Perry in 2007. It later passed through another owner, and then, in June of 2020, Harvey bought it for $15 million. It spans roughly 34,688 square feet on 17 acres along the Chattahoochee River, with 7 bedrooms, more than a dozen bathrooms, and Versailles-inspired interiors. At the time, it was reported to be among the most valuable residential properties in the city. And notice the pattern. He did not commission a brand new mansion to announce his arrival. He bought an existing asset, already built by Tyler Perry, already proven, at a price below its earlier listing. That is an investor's instinct, not a spender's. His other properties tell the same disciplined story. There was a Texas chapter, a home in Little Elm, north of Dallas, where he ran his earlier mentoring camps before the operation moved to Georgia. That property was reportedly sold. There was a luxury penthouse high inside a Chicago tower, which he sold in 2018 for a reported $7.7 million. On the West Coast, rather than tying up capital in a purchase, he has reportedly chosen to rent, so the portfolio is not a collection of toys scattered across the map. It is a portfolio being actively managed. He buys what produces or appreciates. He sells what no longer serves the plan. He rents what would only drain him. That is, asset management dressed up as a celebrity lifestyle. The equity layer. Now we get to the part of the empire you cannot photograph, and it may be the most important part of all. Underneath Steve Harvey Global sits Harvey Ventures, his investment arm. According to multiple financial outlets, it has reportedly taken equity positions in more than a dozen companies, with names that have surfaced in that reporting including major fintech, space, and consumer technology firms. These stakes are not officially detailed in the way a public filing would be, so treat the specific names as reported rather than confirmed. But the direction is the point. He is not just spending the money fame produced. He is buying pieces of companies that produce money on their own. Then there is the intellectual property itself. Steve Harvey Global holds a deep portfolio of trademarks covering podcasts, clothing, motivational content, and live events. He has spent years converting his own identity from something he simply is into something he legally owns. The name Steve Harvey is no longer just a person. It is registered, licensed, and monetized intellectual property. And this is the perfect place to say it plainly. If you are getting value from this breakdown of how real ownership is built, subscribe and turn on notifications. This is the kind of strategy that almost never gets explained, and it is exactly what this channel exists to surface. Because here is the through line. Income tax takes a slice of what you earn, but equity, land, and intellectual property are what you keep. Harvey reportedly paid an enormous tax bill for years to dig out of an early financial disaster involving an accountant who, by his account, stole millions from him and left him nearly broke. A man who has lost everything once does not build the same way twice. Therefore, he stopped chasing only checks and started accumulating assets that the next bad year cannot easily take from him. The brand businesses. On top of the land and the equity sits the layer most people actually recognize, the businesses built around his own name. There is H by Steve Harvey, his menswear line, a natural extension for a man whose suits are practically a personality trait. There are the books, the speaking, and the motivational content, now organized and sold through his own platforms, rather than handed to someone else to package. There is Vault Empowers, the professional development venture he launched to sell access and mentorship at scale. And there is Steve Harvey Products, the licensing division whose entire job is to turn the brand into recurring revenue. Look at the architecture of it. The radio show and Family Feud keep his name in millions of homes every single week. That attention flows into the brand. The brand sells books, suits, courses, and licensing. The profits from all of it flow up into Steve Harvey Global, which deploys the capital into ventures, intellectual property, and land. It is a closed loop. Attention becomes cash, cash becomes assets, and assets become the thing fame never is. Permanent. The legacy lever. And then there is the part that, in this story, is not charity at all. It is wealth architecture. The Steve and Marjorie Harvey Foundation has run a youth mentoring camp for well over a decade, bringing in young men, many from single-parent homes, from across the country. Over a recent 10-year stretch, the foundation reported granting more than $700,000 in scholarships. The camp teaches fishing, discipline, entrepreneurship, and what Harvey calls the principles of manhood, with mentors drawn from real estate, business, sports, and the military. Now, connected to the ranch. The reason he needed 1,581 acres was not vanity, it was capacity. He has spoken about a vision to build permanent dormitories, a performing arts center, a science and technology center, and an indoor gym on that land, so the mentoring can run year-round instead of one weekend a year. This is the multiplier. He is not writing checks to a cause and walking away. He bought the land, owns the institution, controls the curriculum, and is building the physical infrastructure to scale it. The same ownership logic that governs his portfolio governs his philanthropy. He did not donate to a legacy. He built one and put his name on the deed. The life now. Today, at 69 years old, Steve Harvey lives primarily in that Buckhead estate. He still hosts Family Feud. He is still on the radio 5 mornings a week. And behind the camera, he runs a global holding company spanning production, licensing, investment, fashion, and education, with land in Georgia and operations reaching across continents. The man who could not keep a job in Cleveland now signs the front of the checks, all of them. The synthesis. So let's go back to where we started. 34,688 square feet on the Chattahoochee River, 1,581 acres bought from the founders of Chick-fil-A. The international license to a global game show format, 7 million radio listeners every week. A net worth that outlets such as Celebrity Net Worth estimate at roughly $200 million, with some analysts putting the real figure higher once the land, the equity, and the intellectual property are counted. And the title promised you a man who owns a ranch. He does, but understand what owning a ranch like this actually means. It is not a man who bought a big yard. It is a man who bought 1,581 acres of Upson County, Georgia, an entire former agritourism institution, complete with its infrastructure and its mission, from one of the wealthiest private families in the South. When you own at that scale, you do not just own buildings. You own access. You own capital. You own the deed, the dirt, and the future built on top of it. That is the whole lesson, in one purchase. Fame gave Steve Harvey a stage, but he used the stage to buy the ground underneath it. The comedian became a host. The host became a brand. The brand became an owner. And the owner bought land, equity, and a name he will never have to rent from anyone again. Fame depreciates. Ownership compounds. He is living proof of both. So I want to hear from you in the comments. Tell me which one says the most about how he really thinks. Is it buying Tyler Perry's mansion instead of building his own? Is it securing the international rights to Family Feud instead of just hosting it? Is it buying Chick-fil-A's ranch instead of a vacation home? Or is it turning his own name into trademarked intellectual property? Pick one and tell me why. And if you want next week's breakdown, another icon who quietly became an owner with a portfolio almost no one has mapped correctly, subscribe and turn on notifications so it lands in your feed the moment it drops.